This is the Brella Community Services Podcast, the Caregiver Series, with Louise Taylor.
Good morning and welcome to Brella's fourth and final podcast with my caregiver group. I'm sitting here today with some very accomplished gentlemen, Lauren Davidson, who is a master instructor in, I always get this name wrong, Sangham Taekwondo.
Sargo.
Lauren is,
Sargo.
okay.
Sargo.
Oh, thank you. I knew I would get it wrong yet again.
That's okay.
But
I got it wrong for years.
Okay, great. And Lauren has come back from adversity himself, from being bankrupt to owning two, possibly a third, maybe on the way, Lauren.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. You're done. Just so two training academies. A wonderful gentleman, friend of mine, Michael Morgan. Michael was a national broadcaster and produced syndicated radio shows with luminaries David Suzuki and David Foster, and was then owner of an award-winning advocacy agency, a voice performer, and also a writer, and my good friend and cancer survivor. And Tyler, our phenomenal technologist extraordinaire, who's working with us to do these podcasts. Thank you all, gentlemen, for coming. We're going to talk about gratitude, and if we can wind some caregiving into that. While I've not been a caregiver, I've cared greatly for people who have had challenges, and I sit in gratitude to all of you who have gone through this and have helped somebody out, or have had the fortitude and the tenacity to pick yourselves back up after something as awful as cancer. And so on that note, I'd like us to talk about gratitude, and I think it is one of those topics that couldn't be more important than it is this year and what we're coming into for next year with geopolitical strife, everybody needing a little bit more, and there's only just a little bit less to be had. And so I'd like to start by saying I am so grateful to all of you and to Brella and to our community partners who have been very good to us this year, and to my partner who is always supportive of my late nights and early mornings. So thank you. Let's start with you, Lauren. What are you grateful for today?
I'm just grateful to be alive, right? And all the adversities that we all go through that life will throw at us, right? Just to be able to be alive and to take a deep breath when I need to. I'm grateful for my family, my children, my grandchildren. Right? I'm grateful for my partner. I'm grateful for everything that life has thrown at me. Even though sometimes, as I'm sure Michael will attest to, and we can all attest to, that it's not always welcome, right? Whatever life throws at us. So if we can learn to love it, and I think that's a word that I really come to appreciate and grab a deeper meaning of, is love, right?
Right.
Love for the moment, love for what's happening, even though it's something I really don't want to deal with right now. Right. Yeah. But to love it and just to be able to go through it. So that's what I'm grateful for.
So true. So true. How about you, Michael? What are you grateful for?
Well, almost everything, Elaine. The first thing I'm grateful for is that you do these podcasts. Because as a former broadcaster who had cancer surgery, throat cancer, Tyler used to produce my voice. And Tyler, I think it's fair to say I was pretty good. Would you agree?
The best.
And that all got taken away. I can't eat or swallow. I live on a liquid diet. And my choice was pretty simple. Either I get over what was and let it go, or I drown in feeling sorry that I no longer have this world-class voice and I sound like a donkey biting apples through a picket fence. But the truth is, I have been taught so much about gratitude by losing these things. I now can write in ways that I wouldn't have deemed possible. I have become so observant. I drive a shuttle bus here in West Van, and I run into a lot of caregivers who bring these older folks onto the bus. And I one day, and I'll make this short, I don't want to monopolize, I have to make the bus someplace nice for me. So I run a radio station in town called The Wave. And it's beautiful music, some of it nostalgic. And I greet each and every passenger on the bus as they get on, as they get off. And this one old dodger came on, barely made it, in her washer with a caregiver, and she sat at the front. And there was a sea of them back there. And as I'm driving along, the radio station played an old song called Wonderful by Diana Krall. And I looked back, and the place was filled with tears. And this old gal who come on said, "That was my husband and my favorite song."
Oh,
So if you read your environment and you take yourself out of it, gratitude naturally comes in because you're learning every day. And I will end my little piece here by saying that Louise, you of anybody I know, has taught me about how to make chicken salad out of chicken. You've turned my world of perception around about how to take something as devastating as dementia and turn it into celebration and music and caregiving and looking out and having patience and compassion. So God needs more angels like you.
Tyler, how are you feeling these days? Feeling grateful?
I am. I'm feeling grateful. I've been on myself. I have my own health struggles that I've been lucky enough to find a new drug that they've invented that's just changed my life.
Wow.
So I'm pretty grateful for that, and I'm grateful to
Wow.
have the energy to raise my children and be with my family and my wife and my dogs and my cat.
Right?
And just I love being able to be a part of these type of uplifting podcasts and yeah, just trying to bring positivity and optimism to the world. That's fantastic. I'm grateful for that.
I think that's going to be my takeaway for next year. If I do nothing else, that's all I want to be able to do is to shine a light where there's been so much darkness. And as a caregiver, what do you take away from a year where you've worked so hard on behalf of somebody else? How do you find that moment to reflect back on a year of caregiving and see the hope, or for lack of a better word, the hope of somebody you're taking care of? And how do you cope with that while trying to maintain a level of gratitude for what you do have? Lauren, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I haven't had anybody that other than my children and grandchildren but they haven't been there. There's been no illness or any challenges,
sure.
mental, physical, or emotional challenges
Right,
that I've had to support them with. But I did have with my late ex-wife
right,
many years ago
right,
with her journey through hell and then eventually into passing, right?
right.
Um, and I just remember that in all of that journey, because it is a journey for all of us,
Yeah.
um, that there has to be time for us
Hmm.
as individuals to be able to sit back and give ourselves some love,
Yes.
right? Give ourselves some gratitude and uh, those kind of things. So I think that's really important to remember that when we're giving to others, that we have to remember to give to ourselves.
Absolutely. So true. So
Right.
true. We often forget ourselves. How about you, Michael?
Well, Louise, one of the life-changing moments for me was when I had a feeding tube installed. I can't swallow very well because of my surgery for throat cancer. And I had so many pneumonias from stuff dropping into my lungs, they eventually said, look, you have to have a feeding tube. I bring that up because Vancouver Coastal Health sends in caregivers. They come in and they take a big, looks like a cake decorator, stuck up boost, and jam it into my feeding tube. It's a lot like changing the oil on a Volkswagen every couple of days. So I noticed these caregivers, and most of them, and I mean this just from observation alone, are Filipino, and they are happy. And we talked a bit about what it's like because they deal with people who are very difficult. They sometimes hurt them, they don't recognize them, they order them around, and they really, I mean, it's quite an arduous thing. And I asked, and they're mostly women, I said, well, how do you go to work every day knowing you're hitting that sort of resistance? And, they cheerfully look at me and say, well, it's God's work. Somebody has to do it. I'm grateful it can be. They go on this litany of reasons why they're so important to the world that they're in. And I sit back and I draw a deep breath and say, what an incredible attitude. And they bounce out of here and they always say goodbye, I'll see you next time. And I'll tell you one little last story about something. One day, when one of the women was coming, I got fed up with having my oil changed with this boost, chocolate boost, day and night, 3 boxes in the morning, 3 boxes at night. I walked by a German bakery. I couldn't have any, and I was feeling sorry for myself. In comes this woman. I said, I'm not eating tonight. She said, oh, come on. I said, no, no, I've had enough. She said, well, I was so hoping you would eat because today is my birthday. And if you do that, it'll be the only present I get. I went,
Oh,
oh. So I said, well, happy birthday. And we got the boxes out, rammed them into my gut. She gave me a big hug, and then she's closing the door. She says, by the way, my birthday isn't until summer. Good night. But that's the effort they go to. And I think that that's amazing.
It is. I absolutely agree. In many instances, I see them working under situations I couldn't begin to imagine. And Tyler, before we get to you, I just want to give a shout out to some really great people that help us out at Brella, and that's Comfort Keepers and all of their support. Aspira Retirement Living in Chartwell. They give so much of their time and effort and care to our loved ones and into our care group. So, again, just levels of gratitude and where it's coming from.
Yes, you're
Tyler,
there.
yeah. How do you cope with these kinds of things when you're struggling to be grateful, but you're frustrated at the same time for whatever reason? What wins?
well, it's funny. Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about this stuff. I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, and I can assimilate a few things about just the frustrations of the different levels of where we're at of teenagers trying to press the different boundaries of what's going on,
Right?
and what we're really discovering is the how important mental health is. Like your approach towards your baseball game physically is one thing, but the mental game is so hard on these kids, and they're also socially they're going through a lot of changes, and I think with my parents, they're in their 80s, and what they're going through with their changes and struggles, and their friends, and my uncle, and he just lost his wife recently, and we went through dementia with her, and um, really, there's to stay positive. I feel like it's a really important thing for me to realize that you can go to the gym and you can do all these great exercises and do all these things, but if you don't have your mental health, um, I think it's a really valuable thing to work on, because it kind of affects everything else. It affects your physical health. It affects your attitude and your, you know, um, Lauren talks about the mindset in his work, and what it takes and how that affects people on their day to day. It's not just physical; it's mental.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that to try and stay positive and have an optimistic look, even in the worst of times. I mean, even I hear this from Michael. He's just, I don't know how he stays so optimistic, but it really is amazing, Michael. And I
Yeah.
think that's the lesson, is to try and really um, find that for yourself. Like, do
Mhm.
what you need to do. Talk to, maybe it's not a bad thing to, if you go to a chiropractor and you go to a different things, dentist, whatever, maybe there's mental coaching that you could use to get through for yourself, for your loved ones, for,
Yeah.
you know,
And
your children.
we are all of an age, maybe not quite you so much, Tyler, but Lauren, Michael, and I, where men didn't discuss their feelings.
Mm.
It's like you didn't have them. And and if you did, you stuffed them away and you did, like it was an embarrassment, it was a shame, it
You're
wasn't.
weak.
And exactly. And now, I hear more and more about men's health and about being allowed to cry and about being allowed to feel and allowed to share. And I think about all the people that must have, all the men, particularly, who suffered in silence
Mm.
because there was nowhere to go to share that unless they secretly went to a psychiatrist and didn't tell anybody, because that would be looked on too. Mental health is so important, and I think gratitude, I'm gonna lose my voice again, excuse me. Gratitude helps us keep going when we remember that in those dark days when we're angry or really frustrated or don't know if we've got anything left in the tank, is to try and remember, like Lauren said, well, I'm still breathing. Um, I've got grandchildren that I want to live and see, and we have to get outside of ourselves to remember those really important things. Um, what
I
about you?
used to,
What do you say?
this is a
What
little,
is it? Just family that keeps you going, or is it your students? What gets you up in the morning and gets you really excited?
Um, Great question, because I ask that myself like sometimes, but um, the experience, the experience, right? Because you never know, as Tyler was talking about every day, and Michael talks about every day is a new day.
Yeah, yeah,
Every
yeah,
day is a gift.
yes.
And sometimes that gift comes wrapped in a very ugly package, but you gotta still open it up and look at it. And some days it comes in a very beautiful package, but inside it's not so nice,
Oh yeah, true enough.
right? But just the amazement of every day. And Michael talks about the Filipinos that care for him or come and care for him. And I've got a very good friend. I've adopted a family over in the Philippines for the last 5 years. And this year, well, not this year, just last month, the island Cebu, where she lives, earthquake 6.9, two
Mm.
typhoons, right? Two typhoons that were signal 4, right? Which means that 115 mile an hour winds, floodwaters knee deep in their house,
Yeah.
and they just bounce. They bounce back, and just having that uh, example of resiliency and just a love for life, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That they can just do that and do it year in and year out. We're so grateful to be where we are, right? And to remember, just try to remember, like, yeah, we have our world and we have our challenges, like my heart attack and stroke, and Michael with his cancer, and Tyler and you, and but there's a whole big world out there where 20% of the world's population consumes 80% of the world's production, and 80% of the world's population consumes the other 20% of the world's production. And the Philippines and Africa, they're all in there. So to be grateful for, even if life throws you a curveball that just knocks you down, just to get up, right? And just to get up and look at that gift and say, what's the lesson here?
Mm,
Why did that curveball come at me? Right. Now, how can I learn from it? How can I get better? Then how can I add the light that you talk about, Louise and Michael and Tyler? How do I add that light to the world, just to
Yeah.
the world around me?
Yeah.
Because I can't do anything else except impact the world around me.
Right. You're so
mm.
Right.
true.
So, that's something that gets me up every morning. Right.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
Right.
Wonderful. Michael, what gets you up in the morning?
You know, years ago, I did a syndicated broadcast with a guy who wrote what was at that time the best-selling business book ever, called The 1 Minute Manager.
Yes.
His
Yes.
name was Dr. Ken Blanchard. And Ken and I were sitting in his hot tub in Skinny-Atlas in New York in the Finger Lakes. And I said, well, what do you mean by one of the 5 points he makes is catch people doing things right?
Hmm.
And he said, simply that is a cue to be observant, to read the person you're looking at. That doesn't mean you throw around compliments, that don't mean anything. It means the moment that they do something right and you catch them, you've made a connection and you have read them. And he said, he did, he was a professor at MIT. He said, before I come into a class, I take a few minutes and I read the room. And I read it with my gut, with my heart. And that tells me what I'm to speak about. If I come with a pre-prepared set of notes, I haven't read the room. I'm just going to lay that on them and they probably won't want it. He said, each of us has this sixth or seventh sense where they can take a moment. Clear your mind of your own troubles, your headache, your fallen arches, your bad breath, and freeze up for a minute and read the room. He said the stories it can tell will change not only your life, but the way you see it, the way you live it,
Yeah.
and the way you feel happy and connected. And I thought that he had a real good point.
Yeah. Yeah. Read
Yes.
the room.
That's people doing
And we
things
and we
right.
say that all the time. Read the room,
Yeah,
like to people that are seemingly obtuse or too loud or too something. They didn't read the room,
judgment.
and that's
Yeah.
not true. How about you, Tyler? What's getting you fired up these days?
Well, actually, I just joined a band, which is pretty
Cool.
cool.
Hey.
I've
Yeah.
been on the sidelines for a long time as a music producer, and usually produce everybody else's. And a good friend of mine connected with me from West Kelowna and said, "We got some really great guys, and we need another player. Do you want to make that trip once a week?" And I said, "Absolutely." So I've been learning. I learned 20 songs in the last 2 weeks, and
Wow.
it's all kind of 90s rock, which is pretty cool. I'm playing stuff that's outside of my uh, what I normally would play, but it's been
Yeah.
great. And I found this, like, I was like, what? I still have this superpower, this thing that I can do. This is a thing that I studied and practiced, and it kind of just went by the wayside after COVID, being with my kids and my family and stuff. And then I thought, I don't. and then the weirdest thing, like when I started playing these songs and trying these things, magically my fingers could do it, and I was just blown away. So I think it was a really great um, self confidence boost. Like it just gave me this whole, hey, like that's great. So then I was like, if I'm gonna go on a stage, I better get to that gym and lose some weight, and so there was just a whole lot of neat stuff there. And you know what's weird, really weird too, is that my daughter starts singing, and she's got some new band members she wants to put together. And my son is picking up the guitar, and he says, "Hey, Dad, I just learned this Metallica song. You want to come jam?" And I'm like, I I went to this stage of like, we got to have lessons on Tuesdays, and we got to practice, and we got to do this, and I just let that go for the last couple of years because I felt like I was imposing my ideas on them and trying to teach them commitment and perseverance. And you know what? It's happening just because I'm doing it. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe just because they're just wanting to do it too.
They're just feeding off you.
But it's just neat.
Yeah.
It's just been
Great, Ron.
so inspiring. So that's kind of what's
That's that
most recent.
self peace that's
Mm.
tied up in gratitude as well, that you can give more when you're filling your own cup
Oh yeah.
with just good things, good your own superpowers. I was at a leadership meeting last week, and again, this idea of gratefulness, which turns into your superpower. And so we all talked about what we were grateful for with our other leaders, our other team members. And, it really did come down to us each in our own way having our own superpower. So I love that you wrapped up your gratitude in that, because I really
Mm.
see that. I think that the more we open ourselves to that, the more superpowers that we can have, or that our superpower just gets better because we're in a grateful place. And I think that's really neat. I'd like to, as this is our last one, I've got to do some commercial stuff on behalf of Brella. And I would like to thank all of you today for sharing your gratitude and your time. And I have thoroughly enjoyed this. I will say next year, just to keep this in mind, I'm going to be doing, and I've got funding for it, elder abuse, maybe some podcasts, some in person, and some learning, as there's so many facets beyond the physical, but the financial and the sexual and the mental. So I'd like to be able to tap into your expertise and your wisdom next year as we move forward. But I do want to say that Brella has 3 locations in Surrey that can help people with mental decline or that are low income seniors. Excuse me. We do have day programs, and in Newton and Guildford and in South Surrey. And we do have 3 caregiver groups. And these are groups of people that get together by their own choosing, days of the week, supported by Brella, and they've got wait lists to come and to be a part of the caregiver group because the demand is growing so greatly. So please refer people to Brella. We're always going to be here to help. And again, I just want to thank all of you. I couldn't have done this without you, and I'm so new to doing this. I hope this was a good experience for you as well.
Certainly
Well,
was.
we're grateful for you, Louise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're grateful for you and for all the work,
Yes, we
and
are.
Tyler for your work, right?
Thank you.
You too,
And
Lauren,
Merry
Michael.
Christmas to all of you.
Yes.
Thank you. And I look forward to convening with you next year, and I look forward to seeing the podcast, Tyler, once they're ready to go.
You
So
bet.
it's just been great, and have a safe and wonderful rest of the year, all of you.
So Merry Christmas,
Happy
everybody.
New Year,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas.
Yeah,
All right.
Merry Christmas.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
This was the Brella Community Services Podcast, the Caregiver Series, with Louise Taylor. For more information, go to our website at www.brellasociety.ca.